Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are in this world. This is Lee with a morning update for Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin, in its progression of correcting, has been bouncing since yesterday afternoon or so. And this bounce so far has taken price to 11,859. And I wanted to just look for patterns. One thing I noticed is a potential for a head and shoulders bottom, where you have the left shoulder, the right shoulder, and then the head. So one of the key things that we need is volume confirmation. So if we look at the volume, so the volume for the left shoulder and then the volume for the right shoulder, for the head, is much higher than the left shoulder. And then the volume for the right shoulder should be less than the volume for the head. So we have volume confirmation. Based on this volume confirmation, we can say this is likely a head and shoulders. And then we can do a minimum distance measurement. $14,142. So that is a trajectory that could be quite attractive for the Bitcoin. Now I can tell you that mostly altcoins and other bigger coins such as Ethereum, Dash, and others will have very similar pattern because most everyone is following. They are following the Bitcoin pathway. So here's the question. Could there be a case where this is the end of the correction? In other words, could we be looking at A, B, C? One thing that I believe is that corrections are never that quick in altcoins because of the hurry up and wait syndrome. However, I've always consistently also said that Bitcoin does not have that hurry up and wait syndrome as badly as the altcoins. If the price, so if this was my wave one, if wave C has 5 waves, and if this was my wave one, two, This is wave ongoing wave 3, and if this is wave 4, then we should have one more wave 5, lower low. However, in trying to make a case to say this is done, one can still count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the form and fit of this doesn't look very good. The 1 and 2 doesn't seem very distinguished or distinguishable. But yes, this is a correct count in that it obeys the rules of the earlier waves. 2 does not retrace to the beginning of 1. 4 does not overlap 1. 3 is not the shortest. So yes, if this is the case, there is a potential for the ABC to be complete. Although I didn't really see much of a capitulation phase. Now, for a correction of this size, and this is a zigzag, 5, 3, 5. Usually C is much longer than A. They don't usually go about towards equality. Now, if that head and shoulders I had pointed out brings it to the price $14,000, we could be looking at a higher high. And if that's the case, could be looking at another head and shoulders right here. And if this is the left shoulder head and the right shoulder, let's look at the volume. Look, volume can confirm. And then if the right shoulder does form, we can be looking at a larger head and shoulders as well. Recall how these head and shoulders did not confirm in volume, but this does. And if we do this, if this does come out to be correct, we could be looking at a new all-time high, 19,990. So this is Elliott wave pattern driven. While the Elliott wave is not very clear as to whether this is a potential bottom or not, this is where the pattern recognition comes into a significant role. This pattern tells me there is that potential that we could be hitting the bottom, have hit the bottom. If the completion of the head and the right shoulder occurs, in other words, this small head and shoulders, and you'll find this to be very common. Right here, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, as I showed earlier, completes, and then brings it to 1400. And then from there, the right shoulder, the bigger head and shoulders, the right shoulder completes, and the volume also confirms, then I believe we could have a bottom for the correction. And this impregnation of a smaller head and shoulders within a bigger head and shoulders, we saw this before in the prior correction. Now, when this happens, when the right shoulder is in the process of being completed, and once price crosses over the neckline, then we've got a confirmation. So based on this smaller head and shoulders, setting up a ladder here at where the small neckline is, a bilateral, would make sense to me. And then setting it up another one right here would make sense to me. So having two bilaterals, one stage, second stage. Notice how I don't go everything in at once. I don't buy that way. I buy by laddering in. And the laddering in technique is explained at the end of the link for that tutorial video on how to ladder in, how to cast a ladder, is linked at the end of every one of my blogs. So this is my current thoughts on it. And we need first to have the smaller one confirmed where the line goes past the neckline, the blue neckline, like that. Once price goes past it, the minimum target is 14,000, 14,100. And then it may hit this neckline, the bigger neckline, and decline. To finish the completion of the right shoulder of the bigger scale. So this is what I wanted to share with you this morning from a pattern and alleyway perspective. Now here is a clean slate, and I want to show you on a daily scale, the MACD is very oversold. The MACD is at minus 706. And I had pointed this out several times already on the MACD in prior blog morning updates being a new all-time low. Well, here's a newer one. Now, when the MACD is so oversold like this, it is not sustainable. It's like a rubber band. Let's say this was a rubber band being stretched, 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 stretched. It's going to snap up. In this case, it'll be snapped, but it'll be a snapping up. The MACD runs on a 9-day average for the histogram, which means the histogram being 9 days will move pretty quickly. This is how the histogram is trending, high or lows. The blue line is the 12-day average, and the red line is the 26-day average. So obviously the blue line will move faster than the 26-day average. That's why it can cross and zigzag across the red line. So you've got a fast, quick, and slower MACD going. So this leads, histogram leads the blue line leads the red line. When the histogram and the blue line is sitting at the very bottom of the panel, way below the zero, it's pretty oversold. When it's oversold, there comes a point where not a seller is to be found. So I believe this will turn upwards. Now, from an awareness point of view, pattern plays a vital role for my method. So we have new trend lines going here. Given the correction of this size on a daily scale, having just a jab, jab, jab is pretty quick. While I said that Bitcoin does not suffer as much from the hurry up and wait, from a pattern perspective, bringing this to awareness could be valuable. A, B, C, and this bounce could bring it to wrong marker. A, B, C, D, and E. It'll bring us to, again, to that first landing zone right here. Okay. I find this very interesting. I will be keeping a close eye on it, because if that head and shoulders brings us to that 14,000, if price exceeds this, that's very different. If price bounces off this, we know that there's a potential for A, B, C, D, E, this pattern to be in effect. All right, let's see how the daytime price goes and keep these in mind. If there's a need for a midday update, I'll definitely send it in post.